Daddy.
Why haven't you checked the children?
It all began with a scream over 911.
Good evening, Slasher fans. You're here with kind of a bonus episode of Slasher City's Horror Podcast. I am talking with one of my very good friends, Catherine Kincannon. We're going to be talking about bad horror movies tonight. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Right before the show, we were talking about how a friend of ours is, her sister's, sending letters to Betty Broderick in prison.
Yes, I want to send letters to Betty Broderick in prison. Can you imagine getting a letter from? Actually, no, I can't even picture who the real Betty Broderick. I just picture what's her name as Betty Broderick. So I want to get letters from
Meredith
her.
Baxter.
Yes, as Betty Broderick.
Well, I remember way back in the day, they did this skit thing on SNL, and I've been looking for it ever since then. Because it's they did this skit on SNL that was about it was this stupid show that Lifetime would do that was oh, I married a gay man. And then at the very end, they did the promo for upcoming Lifetime shows, and it was the coming up next, we have 3 hours of designing women, followed by the Meredith Baxter Berniathon.
Was it the Saturday Night Live skit about how long ago was it? How old is that?
Probably late 90s, mid 90s.
Was it the one? Was it the one with the guy who was "But I'm not gay"? Was it that one? Because that was Christina Applegate was on that episode. that was a great.
Yeah,
great one.
It was they did the moments I think that Molly Shannon was on that one because it was her mom kept trying to tell her that her husband was gay.
Oh, okay, no, I didn't see that one.
Sex with men, and she's and I didn't get it, but it turns out he was a homosexual, and I had a learning disability.
Oh God! They really didn't spare anything back in those early Saturday Night Live, early '90s Saturday Night Live episodes. I miss those.
No, they didn't. I'm telling you, he had one hand on the maypole.
Anything went with those.
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about really bad horror movies, but not so much just bad horror movies in general. We're going to be talking about really enjoyably bad ones. Ones that, for whatever reason... What was that?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I mean, movies that are, they're entertaining for some of these that we're going to be talking about for all of the wrong reasons. So I guess I will ask you a question first, Catherine.
All right.
What do you think makes a good bad movie special?
Oh boy. Well, it can't be boring because there can be parts that are boring, of course, because you got to expect that with any, poorly made movie. But when it's really, really badly made, sometimes it's so badly made that just the whole thing is just incredibly entertaining because of just, like you said, for all the wrong reasons, it's good. There's all those aspects of the film quality. Sometimes the music, a lot of times, really helps make just the acting. Oh, the acting, yeah. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. If I were going to add something to that list, I think that a good bad horror movie has to be sincere. Any movie that knows that it's a bad movie, it's usually very obnoxious and very over the top, and just you can't purposefully go out and make a bad movie. It just doesn't work like that. These were kind of movies that either had a really good idea or, you know, they had some knowledge behind them somewhere that just completely went awry.
Right, a writer, director, producer, someone who was so punched it so hard for this movie, you know, just gave everything into this movie, you know, and it's just this amazingly awful movie. Those are the real treasures, you know. This person is just like, you know, I just put so much into this movie, you know. Those especially like the independent ones like that are really fun, and you love them, and they're just so endearing, you know. It's not like, oh God, this movie's so awful, it's just, you know, whatever, and you're just like, you know, you like stick your nose up at it or something. It's just like, I love this movie because it's just got so much heart and so much passion, you know. It's like and it's just bad, you know. I don't know, it's just
and I think that you make a good point too with, you know, a bad horror movie, you know, the biggest crime that a horror movie can make, or any movie in general really, is just being boring. Like, there's nothing that's exciting about that. There's nothing entertaining about that. So yeah, I guess we can jump right into our list. Is there one movie first that you would like to talk about?
Well, I don't know. I might have one on my list that might match one, because we only did 3 because I am planning probably on talking a lot, and so a lot of times I notice that it's hard to fit in 5 and a half an hour, but for each person. But anyway, the first one that I wanted to talk about was one that I was introduced to a couple years ago, and I think I watched it about 4 times right away because it was just so fun and so funny and bad. New Year's Evil. That one is kind of one that it was in 1980. It was made. It was actually an independent slasher. Roger Ebert gave it 1.5 stars out of 4. And you know, he actually had some nice things to say about it. He was just kind of coming out of this depressing thing for him to see in horror, because he was seeing a lot of mean-spirited late 70s anti-female horror movies that just really kind of disgusted him. Actually, he mentioned Mother's Day. He used that as an example. He just, like, the depraved disgustingness, you know, of these anti-female movies, I think was the way that he put it, to some effect. But so New Year's Evil. He said that he brought up a really good point about New Year's Evil, and it's just this stupid. He said the plot is stupid, the ending is something that's been done 1,000 times before, but it's just kind of nice to see this like traditional kind of dumb movie that doesn't have, you know, that doesn't take itself too seriously and doesn't, you know, is not trying to shock and dismay and horrify, you know, just kind of just whatever. So the whole plot is this lady who goes on this show, and it's a New Year's Eve party with this, and it's supposed to represent like this punk movement or something that was going on at the time. And Roger Ebert made fun of that in his review too. He's like, you know, no, it's everything that they were going against, actually. So it was like to use that, you know, as that they're voting for the most popular song, you know, it's like, no.
Well, yeah, too, like,
so,
with like the whole like calling in for like the most popular song, like, first of all, like, how would you even be able to get through to anyone? Because there'd be thousands of people calling, and like this guy who like warns them, like, gets through like every single time, and it's just like, hey, I want to talk to her, and they're like, oh, here she is. Like, she doesn't have a show to do or anything.
There you go. Right. And one of my favorite parts in that movie is it just represents the stupidity of the idea of the whole thing. You know, the call-in thing was, you know, that Claire that calls in. This is Claire. Oh man, I don't know. My vote goes to what did she say?
Oh, yes,
my vote goes to we don't need no education or whatever she says.
And then too, like when he's like, he's like, I'm evil, and she's like, oh, you bad, honey?
And I love how like he's in this like phone booth and he's really mysterious and his face is kind of shrouded and he has that ridiculous instrument that he talks through. I could never figure that out. But anyway, that distorts his voice, you know. And he's going, "Hello, what's her name? Hello." I forgot what her name is.
I can't remember what her name was either.
Like, anyway, and he's like, anyway, he's supposed to look really mysterious, like his identity, you know, is not going to be revealed through the whole film. But then they like show him very plainly. He becomes almost exasperated with his, you know, like when he's in the car with those two really annoying ladies. It's almost comedic, you know. It's almost a comedic moment, you know, where he's becoming really annoyed with these ladies, you know, and he's going to kill them and. You know, like, this bitch, like, I'm going to kill this bitch. And, you know, but he does kill her. But anyway.
And then he's got a whole bag of cocaine in his car.
Oh, yes. Yes.
She gets suffocated with a bag of cocaine.
She aspirates on this enormous bag of cocaine, apparently. That would be a great death, I guess. I don't know, whatever.
Well, yeah, anyway, he randomly goes to the hospital and is like talking to like the nurse. It's like, oh hey, like I'm the new doctor on duty. You want to have some champagne?
Well, we could sure use you. And then it's like they're really busy and they have all this work to do, but then like they go and like party and like have sex like right away. You know, it's like I don't know, whatever.
He has like this countdown because he wants to kill a different person every hour on the hour for New Year's. It's never really explained why. I mean, it's an interesting plot motive, but it doesn't have anything to do with this whole thing. And what I think is very interesting about this film is the fact that Roger Ebert didn't come right on Planet, because kind of what he was against was kind of like this violence towards women and this kind of like subculture of movies. Like, this movie is very much one of those. I mean, the only victims are females. When you find out the reason behind the killings, it's very misogynistic. Like,
Absolutely. I agree too. That's why that kind of surprised me too. Like, why he was saying, you know, I guess he didn't really come right out and say that this movie wasn't that. But he was just saying, you know, it was kind of a refreshing thing from the really, really, you know, the seriously sadistic, depraved sort of whatever, you know, violence that was.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, although this movie's dumb, it doesn't include any torture or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good pick, though. I love that movie with all of my heart, and I try to watch it every New Year's Eve.
It's a good one. The music is hilarious, and it's just great. Yeah. So.
Moving on to another one on my list. This is one that me and you have not so much recently. I guess the last time I saw you here, which was quite a while ago, but. The movie that I'm going to be talking about is a little gem from the late 80s called Flesh Eating Mothers. Now, this movie, you know what, with this movie, I don't even really know what they were going for, because the performances are just, there's two kinds of performances in this movie. There's the way over the top one, and then there's like the overly subtle dry one. And you got like this little tiny doctor who like shouts every line. It's like, well, what do you mean about this? They all have sex with this guy who lives on their block, and he's got this STD. And when they get the STDs from this guy, they become flesh-eating mothers. I mean, you got... It's just so weird. I mean, you have killing of kids, you know, she gets a baby out of the crib, and like the little boy comes home from Little League, and like the other kid comes home, and like she's just like chewing on his arm, which still has like the baseball glove on it. It's so ridiculous.
I love too that it's like when you find out how this all happened, you know, and it all stems back to this guy, and you're like, this guy, really? It's ridiculous. It really is. That was a really
the
fun
doctor's got like
movie.
this really like hot blonde nurse that's like right out of an 80s like porno. That's like, here's the files that you requested, sir.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that one. That one was just, I mean, and one of my friends, I found out, like, we had been laughing about this movie for like a year at this point, and he's sitting in my living room, and he's like, we were having this very serious discussion about, like what we remember really first, like as a child, like our first really fearful experience. And his was, and I laughed, and I felt so bad for laughing, because he's like, flesh-eating mothers, and he was dead serious. He's like, that movie scared the fuck out of me. And I was like, no way, you have got to be kidding me. I think that movie is hilarious. And he just stared at me with this blank look on his face. I'm sorry, can I
It's really funny how that works, because my younger brother, Jesse, there was only 2 movies that scared him as a kid, and they're both horror comedies. The one is Return of the Living Dead 2, where there was the one scene where there's like just this head laying on the ground, and the guy stabs it with a screwdriver, and like in like a really bad Southern accent, like the head's like, get the damn screwdriver out of my head. That was like so scary. Everyone was the best.
I love that movie so much. I'm going to hang on just a second. Yep, go ahead,
Okay,
Kevin. Did you so this? I'm going to relocate here. So the next one that I was thinking of was one that I really look fondly upon, because this was when you and I first started to get to be friends, and I was like visiting you, and you were, visiting me when you would come to town, and you were really introducing me to that bad horror, fun, and so one of my favorite ones that I'll never forget, and I'll always love, hold dear to my heart, is Last Slumber Party. That one is so, and the 27 dream sequences they have at the end, where you're just like, what is going on? Why are they doing this? Like, I wonder what inspired them to do all of, how many were there? Like 4? 5?
I love it. Yeah, she's like, like her friend called. She's like, you'll never believe what happened. I had a dream within a dream within another dream.
That was something that Gene Siskel talked about. The dream sequence is, it's a bad movie when there's a dream, and that's not necessarily true. But it's just so. It was, especially when you have 5 of them right in a row. So. One of my favorite.
That's the funny thing about Last Slumber Party, is that none of it makes sense whatsoever. You have this one scene where a guy is like climbing up a ladder, and then like the guy gets his throat slit, and then like the killer's inside, and then you look outside, and the killer's out there. None of it makes any sense. You have this girl who's our lead, who's got like a black eye throughout the whole movie, and she's really a bitch, and there's lots of like homosexual slurs, like she calls her boyfriend, faggots and queers, and like it.
Yeah, homo.
Ridiculous. And there's one
about
thing too where like she goes to the bathroom, and there's 2 phones in the bathroom, and she's like, "What's up with the Ma Bell jokes?"
Yes, like random little, just those little things that you're just kind of like, wow, what? Like, I don't know, just okay. That just adds to the weirdly dumb, the weird dumbness of this movie. Like it was weirdly dumb. It was like, I don't know.
I love her line delivery. Like she's like, "Oh, that was your dad on the phone. He must think I'm an asshole."
You scared the shit out of me. God, I love that movie so much. One of my favorite. I think we watched it like 4 times. We like backed it up and watched it and backed it up and watched it. And I have never.
So
I really.
bad.
I have never laughed so hard in my life when the body. Okay, there's a scene in the movie, like it's one of the first killings, I think. And the body, like she's like, oh, like looking for her boyfriend or whatever, and he's not there, and then his body, like she leaves the room, and it would have been it was kind of good, like the way that, like, I mean, not good at all, I wouldn't say that, but I mean, it was kind of interesting, like how, so this body drops from the ceiling of the closet, but there's this cat in the closet at the time, like this family cat that they put in the movie, and it scares this cat, and this cat jumps and like runs away, and for some reason that made me laugh so hard. Like we watched that. We backed it, you too. We backed it up like 4 times and watched that. That was hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's so good. Moving on to another one on my list. I try to keep my list to movies that me and you have watched together, so we could both talk about them. This one's actually bigger budget. This one had a $10 million budget. It went to theaters. This is another one that Siskel and Ebert panned the hell out of it. I actually think it's pretty enjoyable, and that's a really bad sequel. And that really bad sequel is Poltergeist 3.
Yes. A very interesting movie, indeed.
And what I always remember with watching this with you is, like, for whatever reason, when I put in my Blu-ray, like, it was already out of spot, and it was like the doctor who looked strangely like Gene Siskel. And he's like, let's just talk in the hall. It's like, oh, she just imagined that this neighborhood, like, that all this stuff happened, and she, like, used her powers to make them all believe that there was, like, this ancient spirit. So dumb. But what's really interesting about Poltergeist 3 is that the plot is really stupid. The acting's very hit or miss. But there's something legitimately good about this film, and that's the cinematography and the visual effects. All of these are done with all practical optical effects, so they're all on camera, and almost all of the scenes, starting about a third of the way through, all of kind of the scares and everything have to do with mirrors or reflections. And the way that this stuff is done is quite good. Like, not even like so bad it's good. Like, it holds up really well.
Right. Like you said, the cinematography and the filming. How difficult? I mean, because obviously you've seen a lot of movies made. So how difficult would you say that kind of filming and with the mirrors and the reflections, and how difficult would that be? I mean, I can't imagine how long that would take.
It would be impossible because you would have to film one side and you'd have to film the other, and you'd have to optically put the two sides together to make that image.
And that movie was like...
Literally, if there was a frame that was off, you'd be able to tell that's not the reflection.
And how long was that movie? That was a long movie. And it had a lot of scenes like that. I think
it's like close to, it's an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, no, see, I thought for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was because it seemed like it was. It seems like it was like 3 hours long. But
I love Carol Ann.
That's why it seemed like it was so long, because they said that name about 450 times. How many times did they say that movie? Did they say that name, actually?
I believe it's like 118. 118?
I would like...
It's really funny. If you guys ever have a chance, play the Poltergeist 3 drinking game, so take a drink every time that someone says Carol Ann. What's really funny, I always get people with this movie, because the first half an hour, it's like once every 3 or 4 minutes, and then starting about the half an hour point, they start to pick up. And then you have this, like, ancient fog that's, like, following her through the halls, like, Carol Ann, Carol Ann, Carol Ann. And then Laura Flynn Boyle's in this movie. It's her first film, and she comes out from this semi-conscious whatever, but it's not really her. And she's like, where's Carol Ann? Where's Carol Ann?
And then when they're looking for her,
there's like a couple of really creepy scenes in this movie. So the couple of scenes that I kind of want to bring out is there's one scene in an abandoned parking garage where hands come out of a puddle and grab her legs. I actually think that's pretty scary. There's another scene too where she's kind of there's a really well-staged scene where she's alone in her room and she can hear a voice, and she just looks from like window to window to window, and then she goes to get help, and it like hands come out of the mirror and like push her up, and it's really well done. And there's some stuff about that. And then two, the other scene that I kind of want to bring up. Granted, this is very spoiler heavy. Sorry if you haven't seen it. I imagine if you haven't seen it yet, you probably aren't going to see it. But when the two characters of Scott and Donna come back, you find out quite early on that it's not really them, that it's just the spirit. And there's this scene where he goes up to her and just touches her face and just rips off a chunk of her face, and her face is just hanging there. She's like, they thought I was her, and then they just walk away. And as they walk away, their actual bodies disappear, and you can only see them in the mirror.
Yeah, I do believe that I did think that there were some genuinely impressive moments in that movie that, even though it was a bad movie, but it wasn't bad in the traditional sense of bad. You know what I mean? It was very
unconventionally bad. You didn't have a chance to talk about Tarantino.
Yeah, Outside In. That's my favorite.
Where she's pouring tea. And then he's just like, my God, you found her.
Oh, my God, yes.
Enjoy your tea. I gotta go. Almost like the next scene is her on a flight, and she, for some reason, doesn't want to call the family, doesn't think that that's important at all. She decides to call this doctor, which I don't even know how she would know about this doctor.
Right.
The funniest thing about this is she's talking to her. As she's talking to him, he's like, Carol Ann, is this you? Oh yeah, it's
because she was so amazingly ridiculous in the first Poltergeist as well. So, was that Outside In quote from the first Poltergeist or the third? I can't remember even.
No, that's from the third one. The first one is
I thought so.
Step back to jam in my frequencies.
Oh yes. He's found her. That was the tea scene. That was the tea scene. Enjoy your tea. I gotta go.
You made her thought about him. You made her remember him. You brought him
God
here.
Bless her soul. So Kevin, now it is you have to tell the story about you meeting her then, because it's only proper.
There's this funny story with Elton where it was a horror convention and she was out, and I decided I'm not really sure what she was up to or what was going on, and I just go up to her and I said, ever since I was a little kid, I love Poltergeist 3. It's my favorite of the series. It's just one of my favorite horror movies. And she just looked at me and she just kind of gave off a shrug. She's like, well, I've done other things, And then she walked away.
And walks away. That is great. What a great memory. Rest in peace.
Yeah, and I love to if you guys ever have a chance to watch it, her last thing that she did was this Best Buy commercial that was she had people God, what was it they had this contest. It's share your oldest technology. I'm complaining there's nothing on TV. You could win a home theater makeover with Geek Squad installation.
Oh my God, amazing! Yeah, she was quite the lady. Apparently, wow.
It's great. There's actually an interview with her somewhere online. If you look up Zelda Rubinstein interview, I'm sure it'll pop up. It's one of the first ones.
Oh.
But she's a hoot. She's talking there. She's I forgot what all the interview was. So she kept flirting with the guy who was interviewing her, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, honey. I already have a boyfriend who's significantly younger."
Oh my God!
She's one of my heroes.
How tall was she? And I'm not saying anything about being so short. She was ridiculously, but she was just so cute. She was just such a cute little lady.
Yeah, I think she was something 4'11".
Oh, I don't know, but she was a cutie. I don't know.
So what's another one on your list? I guess, yeah, we still have time to do one more each.
Oh, good. See, I knew 3 would be a good number. Okay, so this one is really important to me because the original movie of this one, that this was a remake of, is one of my absolute, like, it's in my top 10, possibly even top 5. I mean, it's a bizarre, crazy, creepy, weird movie, The Wicker Man, 1973, but here we have 2006 Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage. To me, and I would like to hear other people's opinions on this, that I feel that it was one of the most entertainingly bad horror movies of the 21st century. I mean, I really do not believe that this movie was trying to be bad. I mean, it was just perfect. It was this, I mean, I think Nicolas Cage was taking himself way too seriously, which made it wonderful. I mean, just, I am never going to say that Nicolas Cage is a bad actor. I just think that he gets in some roles where he just floors it. Like, he floors it to the max. And it is so entertaining when he does this because he is just absolutely delightful. So, but everybody in this movie is it's just stupid the way they try and change some of the, some of the traditional things about the original, like at the end, for example, at the end of the original Wicker Man, they're taking him, and he's praying and he's shouting out, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ and the blah, blah, blah. And it's really I think that movie is just so terrifying at the end, when he is the fool, he's the fool. He has no idea. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? It terrifies. It just gives me it chills, and he's like screaming, he's freaking out. And he's singing in that burning Wicker Man, and he's singing that hymn, and it's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in a horror movie. Now, at the end of this with Nicolas Cage, they change it to him going, modernizing it, I don't believe in God, I don't believe, and he's just flailing all over and flopping around, and it's just like there's this one situation in this where they changed it in the Wicker Man a little bit in the remake 2006, where they worship like these bees or something, and that's like this part because represents their whatever. And there's this part where he's in this bar and he's doing this investigation, whatever, and there's this barkeep lady that was weird too. Anyway, she's standing behind the bar and she's given him an attitude, and then he gives her an attitude, and then there's this bee that's like crawling on the counter, and he slams it down with his fist or a cup or something, and she's like, now why'd you go and do that? And he said, I'm allergic. I mean, no, that is just it. And that was like you could tell because it's supposed to be like so cool, like such a cool like one-liner comeback, and it was just the funniest, stupidest thing ever. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Well, what I think is really funny about this movie is that the writer and director of this, he's made some of the smartest, dark, and
really?
I mean dark indie comedies. He did Your Friends and Neighbors. He did The Shape of Things.
This could be the one movie that is... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the argument for this movie, and there's some merit behind this, and it'd be interesting to rewatch it thinking of this. There are many people that think that he intended this very much to be a dark comedy, and it's just kind of his cynical take on what Hollywood...
Interesting, because now that you mention that, I can actually... I will. I think I will watch that again because... I was so shocked because I've seen Nicolas Cage in these roles. I'm Con Air. Come on, you know what I mean? This and so perhaps it was because of that I saw this movie as taking itself seriously. Maybe this is the perfect maybe this is the perfect, trying to be funny, whatever, but not taking itself seriously movie that you were talking about in the beginning, like when they're trying to make it look like it's, bad, then it's not funny. It's maybe this actually he created the perfect movie like that you were talking about. So that's pretty interesting.
It'd be really interesting to kind of take a look at that. One of his absolute favorite films, and if you guys haven't seen it, I apologize because I'm going to have to give away the ending just to tell you how brilliant this movie is. But it's called The Shape of Things. So if you haven't seen it, just turn it off now, or if you can listen to it if you want. It's going to give away the ending, but the movie's still very much worth checking out. It's got Paul Rudd in it, and it's got Rachel Weisz, and she plays this art student. And he's working at this exhibit, and he's kind of a geek, and he's a loner, and he's only got a couple of friends. And she dates him. She has him, pretty much break up all contact with his friends, pretty much sell his stuff to get a makeover, and pretty much just kind of redo himself. And what you find out in the end of this movie is that the art project was him, and he was doing an art experience on just how much a woman can change about a man. And it's so dry and it's so cynical. And just from writing and making that movie, I refuse to believe that there isn't some grain of The Wicker Man that isn't satire.
You know what, and I stand corrected then, because I really do believe that I can definitely see that angle, and I'm appreciative of it, and I hope that is what they were doing, because it is just, because really though, the thing is, I don't know though, because if you really watch, I couldn't believe it when I was watching this movie. I know that there had to have been some of it where I don't know, the bees, remember the bees?
Yep.
They have really gone crazy with that on YouTube, the whole remix of the bees thing, but no, not the bees, that is really funny, actually.
That's great.
And maybe, I don't know, Nicolas Cage, I've seen him in some roles where I'm like, that's pretty ingenious, actually. He can be a really, ingenious actor. I really believe that he is, but I think Con Air really was kind of did him an injustice, really, as an actor, because no one can take him seriously after that. I thought Bad Lieutenant I thought he was amazing in that movie. I don't know if you've seen that, but it was a great movie.
Yeah, he's great in that. He's also phenomenal in the movie he won an Oscar for, Leaving Las Vegas, which is, if you guys haven't seen it, it's pretty much the opposite of everything that you could expect from Nicolas Cage. It's a very quiet, very subtle, it's if you don't want a depressing movie, this is not the movie for you, because it's literally about a man drinking himself to death. I've never seen kind of alcoholism portrayed as well as it is in this film, but he's phenomenal in it, and it's so good. And now he's kind of become a parody of himself, which I don't know. It's kind of good and bad. I guess I think that he's self-aware enough to know what he's doing. So if he's still getting paychecks, and he's, you can never say that he's half-assing a role, because he kind of gives it his all every time.
Sure. After seeing, The Wicker Man, I don't know. I really, boy, I think if a lot of people that have that theory about The Wicker Man, if that is true, I almost feel stupid, because when I watch that movie, I'm like, this is just bad. This is so bad. It's so bad. And Nicolas Cage just makes an idiot out of himself. And, and I think, what if, because that would be like you said in the beginning of the show, a perfect example of that movie that is, like a satire of that kind of movie. That's pretty that's a couple, I don't know. It's pretty dimensional. It's pretty dimensional in that facet of film. Mm-hmm.
his first couple of films are so unbelievably cynical. One of my favorite kind of indie comedy dramas is a little movie called Your Friends and Neighbors, which is one of his first movies. And there's a scene, all these friends are kind of sitting around, and they're talking about the best they've ever had. And they ask this one guy, and he says, me. And they're like, well, what do you mean by me? And he just pauses for a second, and he says, who gives me more pleasure than I give myself? And it's lines like that I'm like, if he could write a line like that that's so unbelievably true, and he just loves dealing with cocky, arrogant people, there's got to be something behind that movie. I don't know exactly what it is. There's got to be something.
But when you see, I mean, I don't know. You know what? I should come back in a couple weeks and we'll just do a show just on that. We should do a show just on The Wicker Man and the remake, and then we'll just talk about it because,
that'd be perfect because I own both of them, so that'd be amazing.
Oh my God, awesome!
I just want to give a quick shout out to my last movie on the list. We're running into the archive, so actually, if you guys were listening live,
I totally forgot. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's okay. So if you guys were listening live, you actually have already been cut off, but we still have like 3 more minutes left.
Darn it.
And okay. A quick shout out, another one that me and you have watched together. It's kind of slashery. I definitely love it more than you do, but I know that you got some enjoyment out of that, and that's the recent movie Nurse.
Oh, jeez. Oh, that is a definite bad one. Yes, a definite entertaining bad
movie. Is we have this lead actress who, to this date, I've seen this movie at least a dozen times, and I don't know if she's given one of the best performances I've ever seen or one of the worst. Because she played it so dry. And just her delivery of these lines that are so nonsensical. It's like, I called him from your phone as you.
She is like,
as I watched that, tight little ass of hers that I finger fucked last night, so trashy to the point where it's really interesting because it's so unbelievably trashy. But at the same time, if we're talking about good, bad movies, this movie is so unbelievably stylish. Just the shots, the setup, the camera work. It's a beautiful movie. It's one of actually the few horror movies that I've seen that actually makes really good use of a hospital location. There's an incomplete last act that is literally just her killing people in this hospital, going from room to room, kind of like ripping out IV.
How available is that? How available is it to do that? That's crazy. And there is a super, super bloody, gory scene where it's kind of like an old fashioned city hospital infirmary, and it's just it just gets so messy and bloody, and that is a memorable movie. That is something to be said. I hated that movie, but it is something to be said for that movie. It is a very memorable movie. I didn't forget it. That's that part where, and when she,
I love it to pieces, and I love her. She's in this new movie called The Editor. She pretty much gives the exact same performance. So if you liked her in that one, definitely check her out in The Editor. I was actually talking with a friend of mine, and we were talking about her kind of as an actress, and I'm like, if she had been around in the 70s, she would have made a phenomenal, Italian horror actress.
Absolutely.
Stuff like Suspiria. She's very deadpan, and you may find her attractive, you may not find her attractive, but she's got a very distinctive look.
That's the thing. You will never forget this woman's face. Never. I'll never forget that part where she's in that car and she's wearing that trench coat or whatever, and she has that choker on, and she has this pale skin, and she's wearing this dark lipstick, and she has dark hair. I think she's hideous personally, but no, I mean, she's obviously, she's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman, but she's her character and just the way she portrays herself, she's hideous to me. You know what I mean? And I don't know, that might be something there too, though, just the whole, I don't know, the way that it's memorable. You will never forget her face. You will never forget her voice. It's just
Good morning. Welcome to Burger King. I'm looking at this enormous burrito, and man, it's big. I tell you that. Dang. Give me one of them enormouses. Enormouses. Watch out. Let's do it now.
Okay, I think I know what you're ordering.
Get the new Eggnormous Burrito now only at Burger King. A hearty breakfast burrito packed with sausage and bacon, plus eggs, cheese, and hash browns. Only at Burger King. At participating restaurants.